Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Lee, and I'm so glad that you clicked on this video. What you're about to watch is one of our Brotherhood breakfast gatherings at Church on the Move. And this year, we're talking about igniting the fire of God inside of us so that it burns brightly and makes an impact on the world around us. And our hope is that this video will fan that flame in you so that you can make a difference. So let's dive into it. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. It's good to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Okay, we'll start with the bio stuff. Tell us a little bit about you, family, what you do. Give us that quick rundown. I know we've got some pictures to go with that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so these are the ones he rejected. I don't know why. I thought they were pretty good. He didn't like them, so...
I like them, Matt.
Yeah, and that one has Jordan Teal's
you carried Jordan Teal's pack for him, right?
Because
he was...
That's on Harvard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's one of the summit hats that my daughter picks out for me every year that I climb the mountains.
Yeah. Every one of those pictures you had... I like what were you, Charles Dickens in the first one there or something?
That's right.
Yeah, that looked good.
Please run that one back.
Well, I thought this was funny because you sent us these pictures and you're wearing a different hat in each picture. And I was like, that's very fitting of Matt Sullivan because you wear a lot of different hats.
I do.
Around here. Talk a little bit about all the different things that you're involved in right now here at Church on the Move and just in your life.
Sure. So I've been here for about 17 years. I've been working off and on through the church for probably about 14 or 15 of those years. Yeah. I'm a lieutenant with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. Been doing that for going on 19 years. Yeah. I have served at 180. I've been involved in Brotherhood, leading groups. I've done Mountain Men, and then also have a super exciting passion project that we've got coming up also in December that we've been trying to work on and launch here for a while.
Talk real quick, and we didn't talk about discussing this, so I'm putting you on the spot.
Great.
But what have you been doing at 180 for a long time? Because I think it's pretty significant.
Yeah, so at 180, I've been leading a lot of the young men. I work in the auditorium and just kind of walk up and down and kind of chat with boys and girls as they're sitting there trying to get a message and just try to keep them on point, but also just love them where they're at. Yeah,
you've poured into a lot of the young men of our church through 180, and that's a commitment. If you don't know, like being here on Wednesday night, week in and week out, and being a recognizable male figure for a lot of young men who come to 180 who don't really have those figures in their life. When they come here, it's maybe the only place where they see a loving man in their life that cares about them. And you've been doing that for a long time, and I just want to thank you for that. Brotherhood, you've been super involved. You've been a mountain men leader for a long time, leading guys up the mountain and toward Jesus. And now talk about your role now here at the church.
Yeah, so in January of 24, I took over as the director of security for Willie George Ministries, Church on the Move, Lincoln Christian School.
Yeah, and killing it at that job.
Wow, okay.
Really doing it. I mean, it's great to have a head of security that has a meaningful relationship with Jesus and cares a lot about our people, but also can do this job with the utmost excellence. And so we're really glad to do this. Now, I told you I wanted to have this conversation with you. You and I are close friends. How did you feel when I said, Matt, I want you to get up in front of everybody and talk about your story? How did you feel about that?
Well, the first thing that came into my mind was like, God, I knew this was coming. And it was not unexpected, but at the same time, sure, nervous, didn't really know what God would want me to say. And but also in a conversation we had a couple years ago, you had asked me to do something also, to step up and lead something, and I'd walked away from there going, I don't know, maybe I'm not the guy, but I'd read something the day before about King Saul, and Saul had, whenever he had been anointed as king over Israel, whenever Samuel comes up and he's making an announcement that this is your new king, Saul was hiding amongst the baggage. And it just stopped me reading that. And I remember thinking, don't ever let me be Saul. Whenever you call me to be a king and whenever you call me to step out, always let me say yes.
Yeah, man, that's good. You're a different man today than when I first met you.
Oh, yeah.
And when you talk about there's a lot of ways that God has been changing you, transforming you. But one of the things that you zero in on is identity. Can you just talk a little bit about what's different about you now versus the man that you were 10 years ago?
Sure. 10 years ago was going way back. But one of the things that I didn't understand at that time was that we're given an identity. And we're given an identity from God, yes, but also from the people around you. And they have certain expectations about the way that you act, behave, and how you influence the world. And the identity that I'd been given was one from my childhood, really. I have a really good dad. He's a good man. He took me to school almost every day. He very rarely missed anything that I did. But I also have an older brother and a younger sister who are very loud voices, and they're very outgoing and charismatic people. And when they would speak up, a lot of times I would get quiet.
Yeah.
And so one of the evenings that we'd had a long day, I remember my dad coming to me, and I was probably maybe 10 years old. And I remember him saying, "Matt, one of the things that I love about you is that when your brother and your sister are loud and demanding, you're just so easygoing. You just kind of roll with the flow, or you go with the flow, and you're always just easy. And I love that about you." And at that point, it just became who I was. Okay, this is what people appreciate. This is where I can fit in. I'm just going to be easygoing. I'm going to be quiet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what's going to emerge in the story, and I just thought of this right now as you were saying that, is people have said things to you in your life. Like a lot of times we do these interviews and it's like, man, this guy was abused by his father, or he was abandoned, or he's got this terrible trauma, and look at what God can do. And that's great. I love those stories. Your story, and I think there'd be a lot of guys in this room that would relate to this. You had people say things to you that were actually compliments.
Yeah.
There were actually things that people were saying to say, man, I like this about you. But the enemy, and he's crafty, he jumped on those things and formed an identity in you that ultimately would end up holding you back.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to get too far into the story. There's a few other things I want us to get to. But like, I wonder what things have been said to you guys that were not meant to hurt your feelings, that were not meant to tear you down, but there were things that the enemy leveraged to make agreements between you and him, and they ultimately will hold you back. And that's what we're going to see in your story is like from your dad. He was complimenting you.
Right.
He was saying, man, you're easygoing.
Yeah.
You're even keel. You make things not difficult, and you kind of bought into this. Okay, that's my role, is to just make everybody's life easier, to make everything better. I mean, one of the things you said, and I wonder how many of us can relate to this. You said with you and Chelsea, Chelsea would be like, what do you want to do? And your response was always, I don't know. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And we've all had those conversations, and that you were really, that's how you felt. Just like, I don't need anything for me. I just, whatever's going to make everybody else in my life happy, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
You said Dr. Neiman asked you, what are your favorite things? And how did that make you feel?
Yeah, that was a question that I wasn't prepared for. I remember him sitting me down and just saying, hey, Matt, what are your favorite things? And I had no idea. I had deferred for so long on what I wanted to do. I didn't even know what my favorite foods were. I don't know I didn't really have a hobby. It was whatever anybody else wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So if we wanted to go eat, I just felt like that was my place, was to step out of the way. Where do you want to go eat? I don't know, man. Where do you want to go eat? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
And it still frustrates me when I catch myself doing that.
Yeah. You said you felt like kind of a passive passenger in your own life.
Yes. Actually, my wife had named me that. She said that I was a passive passenger in my own life because she would crave the leadership. She wanted me to step up and play the man and be in that role that God had given me, but it just frustrated her.
You were in a small group, and I made a slide for this because I think we need to see it. And once again, somebody said something to you that was a compliment. But it felt to you, I think, a little bit like a curse. Like your countenance dropped. What did they say?
Yeah, so this was after I'd been in Mountain Men. I'd seen Dr. Neiman, and I'm sitting in a group of probably 15-year-old boys and another guy who's probably 23, 24 years old, and he's my co-leader at 180. And we're going around the group and we're talking about each other and just kind of trying to encourage each other. And this guy, Jake Whitehouse, is a great dude. I love Jake. But he goes, Matt, you're just this really sweet guy. And it went all over me. Like you would have thought that he'd called me a lot of names right then and there. But it just made me so mad.
Yeah.
Like it hit exactly where God needed it to hit.
Yeah.
I knew right then that this has got to change. Like, I can't be this guy. This is a guy that hurts me. Because whenever I sit there and I know that I have something else that I need to say, I just go back into that identity where I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to roll with the punches. I'm going to be whatever anybody else needs me to be. But that's not who God called me to be.
Yeah, and can I just have you look at that and let you know that that is not what following Jesus is meant to look like? And we are not one of these men's ministries. Brotherhood is not one of these men's ministries. It's all about beating our chest and let's increase our testosterone and let's only do the most macho, manly things. No, there is a healthy way that Jesus showed us masculinity, and it involved incredible strength and courage and boldness, and it involved tenderness and love and help for those who were less fortunate. I'm not up here saying, man, no way are we going to ever be sweet guys. There are going to be times you're going to be a sweet guy. But I think in America, a lot of men think, well, I guess that's what I'm signing up for if I'm going to follow Jesus. Just have to be a real sweetheart, you know? And you know what Matt felt in that moment. I don't want anybody to say this about me, right? That's who I am, a sweet guy. And I guess I'm just encouraging you to you don't have to adopt that as a follower of Jesus. There will be times that you're going to need to be sweet to your wife. You're going to be patient and kind with your children, maybe even somebody that you work with. But that is not the picture of Christian, Christ-like masculinity. And no wonder when you heard that, you're like, that's not what I want to be.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm signing up for.
Yeah.
But then you're in the midst of this. You're doing what so many of us in this room are doing. You're trying to live your life well. You're trying to be a good husband. You're trying to be a good dad. You're involved in your church. You're serving in your church. You're going on Mount. Like, you're doing all that stuff, but it feels a little bit empty, a little bit hollow, because this is not the identity that you want. Now, I want to back up just a second, because it was around this same time, maybe right before that Stephen Torres mentioned something to you.
Oh, yeah.
And then Joel Pepin, and then Austin King. Talk a little bit about what started that journey.
Yeah, this feels like a humble brag, Lee. I'm just saying. So, So I'd been struggling in work and was having a really bad day, and as I sometimes do, and I also hear a lot of you guys talk, and sometimes we get a little down and we start getting a little complaining about things. But I came in and I was complaining about my lieutenant, about how he was mistreating me and all this stuff, and Stephen Torres had been the one that was asking me about it. So I'm walking down the hall taking my kid, and I feel, if you know Stephen Torres, he's not a small man.
No.
Like he clapped me on the back, and it felt like somebody had hit me with a stick, and wrapped his hand around my neck and was like, "Have you ever heard of Mountain Men?" I was like, "Yeah, I've heard of it. You know, I have." I'm like, "Shut up, dude. I want to be whiny today." But shortly afterwards, I was working at the school at this point as a school resource officer, and Joel Pepin, who was the principal at the time, started telling me a story about going on a mountain trip with his family and how freeing it was. And then after that, Austin King just kind of walked up and was like, "Hey, dude, I think you need to go on a mountain trip." And that was in 2019, and I can honestly say that being invited into a community of Christ-like men, and man, it's awesome. Some of these guys are sitting down here today that were on my first trip. Like, this is what community looks like. These are guys that I know that I can call on and I can count on. If you don't have something like that, guys, that's where you're missing it. Because it feels like whenever you sit down with a group of guys, like everybody's going to dump your feelings. And sometimes that happens. But also, you need a group of guys who love you just because they love you and not for anything else. They don't need anything from you. These guys didn't need anything from me.
Yeah. They
just needed me to be me. And so that was my first opportunity to really step into something like that. And it woke something up in me.
Yeah.
I haven't stopped going. I've been on 7 mountain trips now.
Yeah.
And so on that first trip, I remember, guys, I'm 47 years old. I know I look a little bit younger. And people have said that for a lot of my life. I used to say this thing when somebody go, "Oh man, you're that old, you look so much younger." I'd say, "Yeah, God loves me." And so, yeah, he does, guys. It's obvious, right? I mean, come on. But on that first trip, I'd gone up and I just didn't feel winded. I felt really good. And as we're coming up on the summit, Lee and his team are coming down. And
so we beat you up to the top. Just want that to be clear.
What's that?
So I was the first to the summit, and you were still coming up.
Yeah, you got up really a lot earlier.
I didn't remember that detail, but go ahead.
Sure. So he's going, "Man, you guys look good. Matt, you don't look winded at all. How do you feel?" I was like, "I feel great." He's like, "That's great." And I said, "Yeah, God loves me." And Lee just stopped in his very Lee way and grabbed me by both shoulders and said, "Yes, Matt, you're a beloved son of God." And something about that, when he said that, it just, man, it broke me. Like just hearing that from a guy who does not really know me at that point and calling an identity out of me that I didn't know that I had, that I'd really just kind of talked crap about for years. It just became very real to me in that moment.
Yeah. And I wasn't the only one that said something. Stephen Posey said something to you, and I think what he said to you kind of put you in tension and conflict.
Yeah.
Talk about that for just a second, what he said and then what you felt about what he said.
Yeah, so my second trip, we went to Crestone, which people are going to tell you it's lovely. Crestone sucks. I hate Crestone. If I never have to do Crestone again, I'll be a happy man. But so we're on Crestone, and we'd gone through some real trials, and we're sitting down and eating cheeseburgers, and I don't even remember what we were talking about. And Stephen Posey kind of leans across the table, and he goes, "You know, man, you're the real deal." I was like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And he said, "You're just a real deal. Like I see Jesus in you." And the thought that I had in my head at that moment was like, man, I've really fooled this guy. Like he does not know who I am at all. I'm not the real deal. I don't even know what that means. Yeah. But it hit me. Stephen Posey's walked this path for a while. So either I've got him fooled or he sees something that I don't. Yeah. And so for the next few years, it's just been, I want to know what that means. Like, am I the real deal? Yeah. And what does it take to be the real deal?
Yeah.
And so after that, yeah, there was a lot of things that were going on that year and some real hard family stuff. And I'd already talked about the identity that I'd accepted from my family. And that's where I even played. I tried to play both sides of this thing with my dad and my wife. Because again, I love my dad. And I also love my wife. But sometimes those things would be in conflict where my dad would want us to come and visit and I wouldn't want to visit. But my dad would start to blame this on my wife and I let him. And a lot of it was me. Like I didn't want to come. But I'd let him blame my wife. And at some point in there, I'm sitting down on the couch and I'm talking to my dad on the phone. And he's asking me to come. And I was like, yeah, Dad, I don't think we're going to be able to make it. And he's just like, yeah, Chelsea doesn't want you to come, does she? And my wife is like 2 feet away from me. And I'm praying in this moment, like, please, God, don't let her hear. Well, she heard all of it. I didn't back him down. I didn't say, no, it's me, nothing. And after that phone call, my wife was really furious. But I'd been doing this for years, and I'd been successful at it. And so my wife's mad at me. My dad is mad at my wife, and he's really supposed to be mad at me. And I remember calling Lee and saying, man, I do not know how to fix this. I don't know what to do, but I know that it's about to come unraveled, and it's about to cause all the people in my life a lot of pain, and I've been causing them pain. I just had been trying to play that role of get out of the way and let everybody say what they needed to say and just kind of be a sponge. But
yeah, and I want you to talk about what happened next, but I just want to interject here and say, we know the stories of men who hurt their families with their violence, with their anger, with their addiction. What sometimes happens is we hurt our families with our being a sweet guy.
Yeah, that's exactly
being
right.
a nice guy. Unwilling to step up when it's tough and have a tough conversation with our dad or with our wife and just go along to get along, and people get hurt in the process of that. It's not what Jesus has called us to. And I think probably there's a lot of us in this room. Dr. Neiman, when I was meeting with him, said something to me that just cut me like a knife. I was telling him about a situation, and he looked at me with so much love in his eyes, and he said, Lee, you're kind of a compassionate liar.
Yeah.
He's like, you kind of don't tell people what you really think sometimes because you don't want to hurt their feelings, and,
right.
and you don't want to hurt the relationship, so you just don't tell them the full thing, and you just let it go. And I'm like, man, I hate you. Yeah, I was just like, but you're right. I do that, So you're in the middle of that. You and I are talking. What happens next?
Yeah. So we sit down and we're talking, and you'd set me up to go actually see Dr. Neiman. But in the course of that conversation, you said something kind of posy-like. You said, Matt, you're a dangerous man. And again, I thought, man, this guy does not know what he's talking about. Nothing about me is dangerous. I'm a sweet guy. I was way out of shape. I wasn't engaged in my marriage. I wasn't engaged at work. There was nothing about me that felt dangerous. But the identity that we are told and that's spoken over us is not the identity that we are supposed to have as image bearers of God. Like, we are dangerous men. Maybe you don't know it yet, but you are. Like, God's given you an image that looks like him. And many times in his book, he talks about being a warrior. He even calls himself a man of war. And so whenever you called me a dangerous man, I decided in that moment, maybe not in that moment. I remember I called you, didn't I? Yeah, I called you back and I said, man, what did you mean by that?
Yeah.
And you said, well, you're dangerous for good. Yeah. And I decided that I needed to know what that looked like. So I started reading the Old Testament, and I started noticing that guys like Samson, and guys like Gideon, guys like Abraham. I mean, Abraham set some dudes up. Like, yeah, you want to marry my daughter? You got to be circumcised. And by the way, while you're recovering from that, we're going to come in the middle of the night and we're going to kill all you guys because you've offended me. So I started looking at this and thinking, man, maybe we're not supposed to look like, borrowing from John Eldridge, but maybe we're not supposed to look like Mr. Rogers. Maybe we're supposed to look like Moses. Maybe we're supposed to look like David.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So tell me, give just a little bit more of the story about what happened with your dad.
Yeah.
Like you came to a point where you had to do something different, and you had to call your dad and have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, first off, Dr. Neiman also gut punched me and said, Matt, you're a coward. You're a coward.
And you pay him to tell you this stuff, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. But honestly, like, he was right. I'd been a complete coward. I'd laid down where I needed to stand up. And so he said, you're going to have to admit to your wife that you're a coward, and then you're going to have a conversation with your dad. I was like, God, this is not what I wanted to hear. Can you just tell me it's okay that, Matt, you've been okay? No. So I had to go and I had to confess to my wife. I confessed to my wife first. Yeah, I've been a coward. I've not done what I'm supposed to do. And then my dad called and was asking me to do something again. And I just told him, Dad, I'm not going to do that. And he started to say, golly, it's your wife again, isn't it? I said, no, Dad, it's not. I said, Dad, I got a confession. I need to tell you. I have been lying to you for years. I have let you believe that it's been my wife that stood in the way of our relationship. And it's been me. Like, I've been the one that's making these decisions, but I've let you believe that it was Chelsea. And it was silence. And my dad has a lot to say a lot of times. And I was ready for the fire. I was ready for him to yell at me and kind of get after me a little bit. But he said, why did you do this to me? And I just said, Dad, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I apologize. But you need to know that this has not been my wife. It's been me this whole time. It was hard. It was a hard confession to make. And a lot of you guys don't know what that's like. You guys are fighters. I hear stories of guys all the time that are fighters that have been fighting their whole lives and that fight at the drop of a hat. They see a challenge and they want to run to it. They see a confrontation and they want to run to it. That just wasn't me. But there's another group of guys in here that don't know what it's like to fight. Yeah. And they're afraid of it. And they're afraid of the consequences of what's going to happen if you stand up and you say, really what's been going on is I've been a coward. Really what's been affecting you and everybody around you is that you're a coward. But I've been there, so I can say it to you. But I'll also tell you that is not your design. Right. That is not what you're meant to be. That you're meant to go and you're meant to confront. You're meant to confront evil where it's at. And evil might look like you in that moment. And for me, it did. Like, I was the evil in that place. I was a conflict between my wife and my dad. They could have this great relationship. And they're on a healing process now, but it is not where it should be. And I have myself to blame for that. But it was a really difficult thing to do. But I'll tell you this, that a couple years ago, I went to a program called Wild at Heart. And there was a guy that had been pestering me for years named Neil Thomas. And Neil is my chiropractor. And every time I'd walk in to go get my back cracked, he'd go, you really need to sign up for this thing called Wild at Heart. And I was like, nah, I'm a mountain man. I got this. I climb mountains. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. 14ers, you heard of it.
It's legit.
So, but I was at this point where, saying it out loud, it sounds pretty lame. But,
hey.
No, man, I'm a mountain man. But what I got there, I finally said yes. And I basically said yes so he'd just leave me alone. But honestly, guys, it was the most impactful weekend of my life. I will say almost everything changed in that weekend. That's when I learned that this identity that I'd been given was not designed for me. It was a design of the enemy. And guys, we have a real enemy. He does not want you to become who you're supposed to be. Yeah. Because if you do that, you're dangerous to him and his kingdom. Yeah. And some of us really like the identity that we've been given. If I could have gone on being a sweet guy for the rest of I probably would have. But thank God that I did not. Yeah. Because people that are around me need me to be the person that I've become and not the person that I was. My wife needs me to be that man. In fact, after that weekend, and I'd read in this portion of the book over the weekend that said, If you're a guy who never fights, it's time to start fighting. But if you're a guy who all he does is fights, maybe you need to shut up every once in a while and not fight. So I went home that weekend and I told my wife, and I called Tim Bonilla. I was like, how do I deliver this message? But I told her, hey, babe, I don't know what this is going to look like, but we're going to start fighting. I'm tired of laying down. Yeah, it was kind of quiet on the other end of the phone. But I said, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to be a doormat anymore. I've let you push me around. I've let people push me around for most of my life. And I'm just not going to be that anyway. So I'm going to need your grace. So it's probably about 2 months into this, and we'd been doing some good fighting, and we're out working in the garden. And she's telling me, I kid you not, guys, like the T-post isn't straight that I'm putting up, and we're fighting over this freaking T-post.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, right. So I remember I slammed the T-post driver down on top of this T-post, and I say, I gotta walk. I can't talk to you right now. And I took off walking, and we have a pretty good long driveway. So I walk down to the end, I come back, my wife's not there. Whew. And she's sitting on the front porch. And I walk up to her, and she says, you know, Matt, this guy that you're becoming, this guy that's fighting. And man, I felt the curse of the enemy. I felt, golly, she's about to let me have it. Like I've let her down. She's going to really let me have it right here. That maybe I should have just been a sweet guy and just pull the T-post up and reset it. But she said, this guy that you're becoming, I really like this guy. And I thought, what the hell? What I realized I had become was I was a man who was not worthy of respect. I didn't even respect myself. How could my wife have respected me? But she started to. And I think that if you asked her today that I've become a man, and it's not because of any effort that I've given into it. I've just said yes. Whenever God calls me out and he says, hey, son, I want to do something with you, I say yes. I know it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But I've consented to be broken. I've consented to be destroyed. I've consented to have all of this crap torn down that God did not give me. I've consented to do all these things, and it's just been saying yes every time.
Yeah.
And it's not easy, but Jesus doesn't promise easy. In fact, he promises the opposite. He tells us that we're going to have troubles in this world. But guys, if you need to know, we're all going through very similar things. It's true what he says, that your brothers in this world are experiencing similar things that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
The devil is crafty. He doesn't have a lot of tools. I challenge you to talk to these guys at some point and have a conversation about what's bothering them, what they think is true about them. And you'll find that a lot of those things that they think are true about them, you also feel the same way.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of tricks, but he's really freaking good at them.
Yeah. Here's what's cool. We have at least 5 to 10 more minutes of material, but we're out of time.
That's
and
cool.
So we've been trying to do a little bit of supplemental stuff during the month that we send out via email. And so, Matt, you and I, you don't have a choice in this. You and I are going to do a follow-up video, a short video, to talk about those 3 practical things and share that John Tyson quote, because all those are really, really good. But we want to be honoring of you guys' time and let you get to work. And so watch for that in your inbox. If you bought a ticket, you'll get, if we have your information, like Johnny said, hit that QR code, make sure we have your information. You and I will do a little 10, 15-minute supplement to this that can be an encouragement to you later this week. So tune into that. But I think the Holy Spirit has said through you today what I know a bunch of men in this room needed to hear. I know you did. I know you've been challenged. A lot of you need to step up and do the hard thing in your marriage, with your children, with your job, with your habits. And so we're going to leave it at that. Would you guys give it up for Matt for sharing his story with us?